Hello, happy Tuesday. This is Justine Calderwood from the Healing Spot Physical Therapy, and today I'm talking to you moms about core and floor activation. So what that means and who may benefit from this. So I'm really talking to anybody that feels they have pelvic floor or core weakness. Hi, Anna. But specifically, like any of you moms, new moms, if you're caring for your children and you're worried that you're not able to do the activities that you want to pick your babies up. Maybe it's pushing the stroller, maybe it's carrying an older child, and you're worried about what's happening at your, say, your low back, your pelvis, your hips, okay? It's also for anybody that's worried about diastasis following childbirth and pregnancy. Anybody with a history of or healing and managing pelvic organ prolapse, so that can be any stage postpartum. It can actually, okay, so anyway, then actually people that are returning to exercise, so if you know you want to get back to, say, running, yoga, working out in some degree, and doing that safely, and also prevention for prolapse or incontinence, okay? Stress incontinence, urge incontinence if you're dealing with some leakage, okay? So also just moms that are experiencing some leakage don't necessarily have to be recently postpartum. If you're having any kind of heaviness in your vaginal or pelvic area, that can be a sign of pelvic organ prolapse of either, I'm gonna grab my model here, of either the bladder, the uterus, or the rectum. All of those organs sit down into the pelvic inlet and are supported by the pelvic floor muscles, okay? So we're gonna jump in with this. I'm just gonna give you some basics so you can understand why this is important and give a little bit of information about how you can start even in the comfort of your own home to gain some strength in your inner core. So when I talk about the inner core muscles, these are really your stabilizing muscles, okay? So they're the ones that are supporting these pelvic organs. They're also supportive and stabilizers for your hips and your pelvis. So the inner core muscles consist of your diaphragm from up high. So it kind of creates like this canister. So we talk about the diaphragm up high. So that's going to come into play when simply with breathing, if you're breathing correctly. From underneath, the bottom of that canister is going to be the pelvic floor muscles. So if I take these organs out and show you, this is a female pelvis. As I show you the bony ring here, your low back is, your spine is back here. Your pubic bone is here. So as we look in there, you see that sling of muscles? It creates kind of like a hammock. I'm going to show you from underneath. Here's the vaginal opening. Here's the anus. You can see these pelvic muscles that create kind of like a basket supporting, okay, and giving stability to the pelvis and the hips. So the pelvic floor muscles are the bottom. From the front that kind of come around here are the transverse abdominis muscles, and then you have these little strappy muscles like tiny little muscles in the back called the multifidus muscles. So you have support from all the way around, and these muscles, they're supposed to contract in anticipation of movement. So let's say you're getting out of bed or standing up from your bed or off the toilet, or you're getting ready to reach down and pick up your baby, or you're getting ready to push something, or you're reaching up into your cabinets. Anytime that you get ready to move, these muscles are supposed to contract reflexively without you having to think about them. But unfortunately, it's pretty normal that they get turned off during childbirth. Okay, and they don't necessarily just fire back up and start turning on again. A lot of times they require, the reactivation, the awareness and the knowledge and working on this. Okay, and so it doesn't always come naturally. So that's why it's important. So if you are struggling with any of the things that I already mentioned, or if you just have an instinctive, feeling that you're just not as strong as you used to be, it may be because of this. Okay, so those are the inner core muscles. Those are our stabilizing muscles. They need to contract like right now when you get ready to move. On the other hand, your outer core muscles, that's what people think about when they think about like the six-pack abs, okay? And then they think about core muscles. The outer core muscles are the rectus abdominis that go up and down, your obliques, the inner and outer obliques that allow you to have mobility. They also include the erector spinae muscles along the back. So if you go to extend through the back, you're gonna feel those big strappy muscles along your spine. So those muscles are called the outer core muscles, and they are more mover muscles, okay? So they're gonna contract to allow you to get movement of your trunk, okay, your back, But the thing is if your inner core muscles have been turned off, the outer core muscles, they come in and they want to try to help out, except they are lousy stabilizing muscles. Like they do a very poor job at it. And so you're not getting the stabilization that you need in your spine. So it can set you up for things like low back pain, hip pain, pelvic pain, you know, in addition to the things that I already mentioned, diastasis, pelvic organ prolapse, incontinence, a lot of female-related health issues that could really impact your life and limit your quality of life, being able to be active, to enjoy your life, play with your kids, and feel confident and strong, okay? So one way that you can start to contract these muscles, really, I'm going to give you a couple of different simple ways. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. This is what I do one-on-one with people to help them decide, or help them to discover, I should say, if their inner core muscles are turned off, if they're weak, okay, and how to get this turned back on. So one way that I've been told, I think is a really great way to look at it, is kind of like a jellyfish, okay? So we always couple the contraction of the pelvic floor, the transverse, and the multifidus, kind of all the way around and underneath. Think of it like a basket, kind of. We want to couple it with the breath. So on the inhale, everything should be relaxed. So if you're thinking of a jellyfish, as you inhale, that diaphragm should move down like a canister. And so the bottom of it, the pelvic floor, should be relaxed. So if you're thinking about like a jellyfish, as you inhale, the jellyfish, the little tendrils should kind of open up. And so you should feel your pelvic space where you're sitting, you should feel that relax and kind of open up, not a bearing down. It's simply a relaxation. Then on the exhale, when you kind of picture that breath coming back up in the canister and going out, that's when the jellyfish can kind of gather up everything around front to back and pull up through the center, okay? So it's kind of like you're trying to, I've also heard it like, picture those little tendrils picking up a marble. So with the inhale, everything is relaxed. Exhale, you want to pick up that little marble by pulling in everything. The other way I've heard this described is kind of like a drawstring bag. So if you imagine that you have this drawstring that's it has a bottom and it has a circular opening, and with the inhale you're kind of opening that bag up, and when you exhale you're trying to close it. So you're really trying to close it in a circular direction all the way around and bringing the bottom straight up towards your head, okay? So that's in a nutshell how you can start to do some inner core activation, okay? There's clues that I give moms when I'm working with them on how they can double check. I'm always giving them feedback in the clinic, but I give them a really simple way to double check that to see if they're doing it right, okay? And we start in static positions. So we really start with, because I find that moms need kind of this muscle power, okay, to be able to really concentrate. And so we start in static positions. We start with lying down on your back with your knees bent. That's a really great position because you're not fighting against gravity, okay? If you feel super weak, what I recommend is put a pillow up underneath your hips, okay? So that would help lift up the hips, so that way gravity can kind of get those pelvic organs out of the way and you can feel things contracting a little bit better. So we lie on your back, face up, lie on your stomach face down, side lying, so either side, and I like to practice on both sides, sitting up and standing. So keep in mind when you're sitting up and standing, you're going to be fighting against gravity a little bit. So if you're already weak, that wouldn't be a position that I would start in unless that's absolutely the only time of day that you're going to be able to have time to do this. Then from there, we start working on advancing that first to functional movement. So I will have somebody, if we've practiced from lying down and side lying and sitting up and standing, then what we'll do is practice, okay, now on the exhale, I want you to go from lying down on your back to sitting up at the edge of your bed. Okay, and we practice that, and we see how mom does with that activation, and I can give her some cueing and also feedback. And then from there, in those functional activities like picking up a baby, picking up the car seat, reaching over, reaching up, those like simple squats, because don't you squat all day long when you go to get up and off the toilet? Okay, that's a functional squat. Then we move from there to more advanced activities. So we might work on maybe some light weight lifting, a little more dynamic movement, and then eventually return to whatever mom's goal is. It might be working out, it might be running, it might be biking, it might simply be, I just want to walk my dogs down the street without feeling like things are just gonna give way. So we really work on what moms are really working on. I don't come up with their goals for them. They tell me, hey, this is what I want to be able to do. So physical therapy, pelvic floor physical therapy, that is what I do. That is one way that I say, everybody that's had a baby should have at least a screening with a pelvic floor physical therapist to see if these muscles are getting turned back on, to have an assessment, to see how you're doing and how well you are already healing, and maybe get you some information that can help you reach your goals faster. Online videos, I know there's a bunch of online videos that address this type of issue. I really recommend that they be used in combination, at least with a screening by pelvic floor physical therapists. They may tell you, you know what, you don't need to be here, and that's great news. Like, they might be able to tell you what kind of video to start with. I do some very simple ways I give moms that they can have some of that feedback. One of the things that I use is a pelvic floor exercise system, such as this Aquaflex. It's a really great way to help you learn to manage pressures. I know some clinics offer biofeedback, okay? But I also just use manual feedback, so I really feel into those tissues and see how well things are contracting. So oh yeah, hi Anna. So Anna's saying that she's had 5 kids and she had no idea about this stuff. So I'm really glad that you're here today and that you're learning this. And I do want to say, it does not matter your age, how old your kids are, how long you've been postpartum. Once you've had a baby, you are always postpartum. So we have the saying, once postpartum, always postpartum. And it's never too late to start activation of your inner core and getting your pelvic floor stronger. It's never too late. And I suggest, if you're already experiencing some symptoms, regardless of your age, get it looked at now, because if you wait longer, guess what? Gravity's gonna start to take effect. Those muscles even get more and more atrophied. They get even weaker over time. So the sooner the better, at least to get that screening, okay? It's super important that we're taking care of ourselves as moms, because that's the only way that we can turn around and fill the cup of our children and those around us if we are actually healthy and strong. So let's see. So I think that was it. Oh, the other thing I was just going to say with pelvic physical therapy, one of the things that I do specifically is fascial release, myofascial release, because that can help release the restrictions in the body that might be leading to strength issues. Okay, so it's not always that your muscles are simply weak. Sometimes they're surrounded in this kind of straitjacket of fascial restriction, and that's what's keeping it weak. Okay, so it might not be necessarily true muscle weakness, but rather tightness, spasms, trigger points. That's all going to affect your strength. Okay, so that's why it's important that you at least get some screening done. If you are local to Woodland Park, Colorado Springs, I have 2 offices. I'd love to connect with you. If you have any questions, leave them below. You can even check out my website. I have a postpartum checklist. It's a free download, and you can learn about this and more issues that I have written, just a downloadable ebook that you can get on my website at healingspotpt.com. Won't cost you anything, so check that out. So all right, thanks for tuning in today, and reach out if you have any additional questions for me. Thank you. Bye-bye.